5, 4.
You didn't say 2 or 1.
Oh, you didn't say 2 or 1. Welcome to Book Club.
Except instead of books, it's games.
Oh, and instead of a club, there's us two.
But the rest of the idea is 100% the same.
As every fortnight, we play one game solidly.
Then come here to talk about it.
And we want you to do the same.
All the games are retro.
Most of them are Sega.
Some of them we've never played.
Or, we've just forgotten we've played them.
Because we're old.
Because we're old! Because we're old.
Because we're old.
The Book Club has one central theme.
We play retro games for their quality.
Games that deserve to still be played.
There are some bonus old man memories to be had. You don't need nostalgia if the game is awesome.
We're going to prove it.
In the Book Club.
We are live with the second Book Club. And this was, I think, this is off to a blinder. Because, the hope was that it would get us playing things that I hadn't really played before. We would kind of uncover some old gems and also just, I guess be proved right in the idea that the retro games have still got some life in them, and this one really did. So I'm very excited. Before we plough in, how you been? Busy week?
Oh, I'm doing very well. Very, very hot day right now, but it's all good, It's always nice when the sun's out to stay inside playing games. That's what I think.
I thought it was hot before, but then I dialed in and saw your sweet face.
Oh my
smooth. Yeah. Actually, I shouldn't joke because I do actually have a vague suspicion that I might pass out during making this video. So
Okay.
This satin bad boy here. This is from one of those shops in Akihabara when I went over on the trip a couple of months ago, and let's just say that nowhere in Japan can I find anything in my size. So this is the largest I could get. It's about 2 sizes too small. It's long sleeves, and obviously on a day like today, this is not what you want to be wearing. There's some serious heat collecting in these areas here. So
No, I would never notice it because I'm just focusing on that awesome Sega Saturn right there.
See if you can make out. That font looks slightly off to me. I don't know what you're thinking. I don't think this is an official thing.
It's like as if the main text has been taken off and only the borders left or something.
Yeah, it's slightly wrong. Down the little sleeve, we do have a slightly.
Yeah.
It's a shame we didn't put that on the main section. Yeah. Anyway, it's very nice, but this is being recorded off the back of a shambolic display by the England team. So I think it's a good time to pounce because if we're vaguely shambolic, we'll still look good by comparison. So
Exactly. It can't be much worse.
Obviously, by the time we publish this, we'll probably have crashed out and that's even better because people will be scrabbling around with something to do. Why not come and join us on the book club?
Absolutely.
It's like we planned it. We didn't plan it. So what have we been playing? Let's do the big reveal. What have we?
You want me to say?
Let's go. You go.
Monster World 4 on the Mega Drive. The 1994 Westone developed Sega published game that only came out in Japan. 1994 it came out in Japan. Never got translated, and then randomly in 2012. Sega did an official translation. There was a fan one beforehand, but this was an official one. And it came out on Xbox Live Arcade, PSN, and the Wii Virtual Console, which was really weird, but it was very good to finally have it in English because it looked awesome. It was pretty sad that it never came out officially. So.
Yeah, I think I stumbled across the fan translation version when I was trying to find the ROM for it. Because I noticed I'd seen a load of screenshots and stuff in the reviews, the magazine coverage that I was reading, and definitely bits of it were different text. So what version were you playing? Where did you play it?
I'm assuming it's the same as the one they put on the Xbox Live and all that stuff, but it was the one that's on the Mega Drive Mini, which actually got a little blurb that comes up and says it's from 2012. So I'm guessing they're referring to that particular version. They didn't say it was 94 or something. So Yeah.
What was mine one? So mine was a Ron playing on the Ambernick, which, by the way, that little Ambernick is just made for games like this. You know, colourful 16-bit era like platformers. It's just made because the screen's beautiful and the controls, like D-pad and normal buttons, are great. So it was a real joy to play that. Anyway, sidebar. But so this was the virtual console version. So that would have been yeah. So
Yeah.
But I suppose the starting point was we lived the experience because I was lived the experience of being back in 1994 because the first hour or so that I played, I did try to play it on the Japanese version. Obviously, couldn't understand a single thing that was going on, and I genuinely got to the point where I thought it was glitched because it wasn't until you started playing and caught up and gave me like a basic hint about what to do that I then kind of realised where what is it that you find at the start? It's like a emerald or something, not an emerald. It's like something you have to take over to the temple anyway to unlock.
Yeah, it's your training, isn't it? You have to become a warrior and stuff. Yeah. Actually, should we give just a brief story overview just quickly?
Hit me.
Paint the picture. So, so Monster World 4, it stars a young girl called Asha who lives in Monster World, and she hears the whisper on the wind of the 4 spirits of Monster World who'd fallen captive. And so she becomes a warrior to free them. And that's basically the gist of the story. You go off on your adventures, go to these particular dungeons and free these spirits and, try and put right what has once gone wrong.
I knew you were going to go down that route. I mean, the thing is, as soon as you start doing any blurb for any kind of adventure, Sam Beckett just beckons to you. He's like,
that's what it's all about.
There was there's a little run of like female protagonist games actually, and let's start there because obviously you got some major Shantae vibes out of this, and that's an obvious question. And if first glance when I looked at this game, I wondered if it was even part of it because obviously the main character sprite, sort of similarities in me. But you got some major vibes. Like what's the links between the two? Tell me about it because I'm not a big Shantae player, so you'll have to do the comparison.
Yes, so I think I probably first played Shantae. It came out on the Game Boy Color originally, and that was a long time ago. I think it was 2002 or something. It had a kind of cross compatibility kind of thing. So if you played it on a Game Boy Advance, it would unlock other elements to it. But I never played that version. It's super rare and expensive nowadays actually. But where I jumped into the Shantae series was it must have been around 2012, 2013, I'd say, probably 2013 actually. Because I think the sequel came out on the DS store, whatever that was called. Was it called? I can't remember. DSiWare or something. I can't even remember what it was called.
Spell. Yeah.
But it was a modern game with a retro feel kind of thing. So it had the pixelated graphics, and I just thought it was really, really fun, and I thought it looked awesome. So that's where I jumped in. And so really, what happened was I ended up playing the Shantae games, which has taken a massive influence, clearly from Wonder Boy and Monster World and all that kind of series, particularly. And I kind of played it the wrong way around almost. So I played the Shantae games, and then I'm playing Monster World, being oh, that's like Shantae, but really Shantae is Monster World because that's obviously what inspired a lot of it.
Yeah, definite links. And I've played a bit of it on your recommendation of the Shantae series, but game mechanics. I mean, this one's got some Monster World 4's got some unique in-game mechanics which are pretty good. Does that compare, or is it more just the graphic style?
Yeah. I mean, more actually some of the other Wonder Boy games. So the Dragon's Trap. I think it's Wonder Boy. I can't remember. Is it 3? I can't remember what it's called. Its main title is the Dragon's Trap anyway. So in that game, you turn into little other creatures to kind of so you can get to different areas and stuff like that. So you can turn into a thing that flies, and then you as the game progresses, you then able to get to higher platforms than you never got to before. So Shantae, the first one I played was which one was it? Risky's Revenge. So that was the second one, and that's all about turning into these other creatures to like get to other areas, and you gradually come back across the maps and stuff, and then you can get to different sections you can never get to before, and that's like a heavily borrowed thing from this series. I did make a couple of notes. Oh yeah, so like actually like particularly things that jumped out at me. I mean like it's got that Arabian kind of theme like Shantae and this game particularly. The other thing was there's this the magic carpet section where you jump in. I think it was like Half Genie Hero, which was the fourth Shantae game. They have kind of like bits like that in it that I particularly remember, like where you kind of traversing like the magic carpets and all that sort of stuff, and that was really like, oh okay, that's kind of like very similar here. And one of the other things is, do you remember the when you get shrunk in Monster World 4, and there's like this red blob kind of looking boss, and he throws out the electric little enemies that you have to kind of like take out and force him back till it clears that doorway. He really reminds me of, there's this boss in Shantae called Squid Baron, and he's almost like, he's very similar looking, like a big red blobby kind of thing, and it was just kind of like, it was just, the whole lot was just giving me Shantae vibes, like all over the place. Yeah. I love that anyway, so it was all really good and really well received.
Well, it's just the bonus. I mean, because it's the same thing for you, I imagine. Obviously, you picked up the Shantae games, and they had that. This is like 10, sort of 12 years ago, but that was kind of the retro feel. It was kind of like filling in that bit of beautiful, like action platformer that had kind of gone by the wayside with 3D and stuff. And so that's the same now for me picking Monster World up. It was like, it's obviously you don't get, apart from in the kind of indie scene, you don't get a lot of really simple, nice, fun platforms anymore. And this was just, fitted neatly in that slot. But I told you tonight, like I was, when I was playing, I was just getting super strong Zelda vibes, set like SNES Zelda, and I mean, obviously it's it's like side-scrolling platformer, like lots of sort of forwards and backwards through the planes that way, which sort of accounts for Zelda's like flaws and whatever. And so a lot of the game mechanics are different, and the puzzles kind of work differently, but I don't know, there were just bits that felt so similar, like the fluidity of the animations and like the attack moves and stuff, like simple but quite, there was a bit of depth to them, like Link's little playing as Link and battling the enemies, there's only a few different ways you could swing your sword, but they managed to find a few different ways you had, there were tactics the way you took on the enemies, same as on this game, and just and I don't know, like I suppose the feel of the game, the like colourful graphics. I mean, great to see that vibrancy on a Mega Drive as well. It was quite, that really stood out as well. But it just, I don't know. Like I played, what's that one that always gets compared to Zelda? Ragnarcenti? Is that it? Soleil? whatever. I can't remember what it's. Soleil, Soleil in English name, and then Crusader and Senti. Yeah. And like that, obviously top down, a lot of the kind of sprite and scenery work is really kind of Zelda-like, but it felt a lot less like playing Zelda, playing that top down Soleil, than this felt playing sideways. I don't know, just a lot of comparisons, which is a good thing, I should point out, because obviously like SNES is one of my favourite.
They're all good games. It's like the flavors of all those things like mixing together. It's just good stuff. So,
I mean, me being the like excellently, me being the excellent compere that I am, I've completely like jumped in at one of the later things I wanted to ask you. You should probably go back and do like the basic stuff. So, I mean, we've played it through. I think we both managed to finish it, didn't we? Which is a bit of a minor miracle for me, to be honest, because I've probably only completed about 5 games in my entire life.
All right.
But I mean, how did you find it? I know we were both very buzzy at the start. Did it keep you going all the way through?
Yeah, I would say. You know what? I know what you mean. I kind of had more hype at the beginning, I suppose, than at the end. But like, it didn't drop off massively. It was like, I mean, like when I first like turned it on, I was just like, oh, this looks great, sort of thing. And it had been a game that I've been meaning to play for many years actually, and it was good like doing this book club thing, just to actually finally get on with it and that without being too distracted. But yeah, it was just I thought it was like a really really fun game. It just started well, started nicely. I mean, there was like a few moments where I felt like I hit the wall kind of later on, but the first kind of the opening bit and the first two dungeons were quite easy going, I kind of thought, and that. And it was like, yeah, I had a couple of moments of frustration later on, but overall, I think it's like a solid game. Like, I mean, when I first started playing it, I was like, man, I can't believe I haven't played this before. This is amazing. This is going to be one of my like go-to Mega Drive games.
Yeah.
That was the vibe I was getting, And it was just like, I mean, I won't go into the sound too much now, but literally when I turned that game on and I heard that opening music, I just sat there and I waited for the demo to keep rolling around because I loved that theme tune.
Yeah.
I was like, this is amazing. I was like, this is so good. I was just like,
that's such a you thing to do. Like, see, the way your brain works, you could probably now recreate that and like replay it. For me, I could sort of vaguely remember that it's quite bombastic. I did really like it. It's lucky that you liked it because obviously, that motif kind of does play through quite a lot of the levels.
Yeah.
Although they mix it up, the main tune maybe didn't stray. I know, like the sound guy for this was not the whole Westone team that created that series seems to be pretty much the same through all of the series, but I know they changed up the sound guy for this, and
really?
like the main composer was not the one from the rest of the series. I think he came back after this one, and it did get a lot of flack. I think I read the Meme Machines review for it, and they were, I think it was them, they were not impressed by the music, and I'm like,
really? Wow. Okay,
and it did make me think, like, are we just kind of, I don't know, like how you put these days you put chiptune and like 16-bit music on a bit of a pedestal because it's so like kind of vibey and whatever, and I just think, oh, are we just being overly positive? But no, I really loved it. Like, I think
I thought it was brilliant. I had my headphones on the whole time. I was like loving it. It's like, actually, like it was the first thing I put on my dislike list was like when you open the chest and the music stops playing. It's like, keep that music going. I want to be hearing these tunes. This is like good stuff.
Dude, it's because they need you to focus your attention on Asher wiggling her ass.
I know. That was the first thing on my like list. That was just a charming element. It was just like,
charming.
Yeah, charming.
That's the most neutral and non like cracking onto a young girl comment that you can make. We'll edit that bit out. Yeah, I mean, I thought I thought it started brilliantly. Like, it's kind of there's just a hint of a story. Like, they didn't try and like have a massive world and like spend ages like doing the setup. It just kind of launched you into it. Right, you're a girl. You got to go on your warrior quest. You got to build up, and then you're into it. And then obviously you get to the town, meet the queen. She sort of sets. It's simple. It's a simple structure, but it was enough to feel like I am in a story. And obviously as you progress through the game and you repeatedly go back to the main town, whatever that was called. And the NPCs change what they say, and there is a nice kind of basic but effective feeling of evolution as the game goes on. And obviously there is a plot, and it does develop. And as the evil wizards, whatever they are, they gradually take over, and the queen gets corrupted. And it is basic, but it is effective, and I liked it. I kind of thought like the first level. When you like just do it, it's like basically a training level, isn't it? Get used to the mechanics and stuff, and you're just killing a few blobs. I did think, oh my god, it really reminded me of, I don't know which one it was, either World of Illusion or Castle Illusion. It's like really kind of basic, like entry level programming platformer game, and I was thinking, Jesus, this is going to be awful. But then as soon as you're into it, and especially once you get your little Pepper logo, or whatever its name is, and the mechanics start to kick in. Like the enemies get that bit more complicated. You have to learn the attacks. Obviously, you have to like start doing things with your little buddy and stuff. Sounds a bit worse than I intended it to do. But that's when I really thought, oh no, this is like properly good. How did this escape our attention back in the day? I mean, the obvious answer is because it didn't come out here. So it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know,
That is pretty much it. It's like, I think I would have been all over it. It's like, you know, particularly like the anime style and all that stuff. But yeah, no, I know what you mean about those opening levels. But the thing for me is like actually what you say about like World of Illusion, Castle of Illusion, and stuff like that. And I can see that comparison. The one that jumped out to me was like using your sword to kind of like jump on the head. And you could kind of pogo. And I was thinking like Major DuckTales vibes from the NES. I mean, and I was like, oh, you can pogo, like,
it is so exactly the same feel to do it. Like she almost like jumps, you know, when you hit an enemy, she almost like jumps the same amount, and it's like it feels very simple. But but I think it's a good example because I played those, you know, the Mickey games, and I just feel like I know people love them, and I've said to you before, I'm just not a massive fan of them. I just feel like they're so basic. And then you play Quackshot or the DuckTales game. Is it the Game Gear one you're thinking of? That's the one I know, like, you know, for the
DuckTales.
Yeah.
On the NES.
Because it's the same on the Game Gear one, though, isn't it? But anyway, like, but those just with just a little twist on the mechanics. You know, just give your characters some extra moves to do, and it just lifts the game so much. Those are good. Mickey's not, and so this one. It's got that. It's obviously got it's got quite a lot of range of movement with the sword. You know, I did notice it really makes a difference, like where you land your shots, like when you time it and stuff. And I just thought, yeah, this is like so clever. But it didn't it didn't land like universally well. You know, like did you read reviews and stuff? Like, you know, I just sort of went.
Not really. I just knew the series, and I was like. Actually, and like I remember they did that remake not that long ago and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, it just all was like pointing me in the game's direction and stuff like that. But like actually, like from back in the day, I don't remember anything about it. Actually, if I'm honest, I can't remember seeing it in magazines or anything.
No, I don't. I mean, yeah, again, I knew the series, but we didn't really play it, did we, back in time? But. Didn't know this game until you really suggested it, and I think, but yeah, I read a few, like, you know, let's call them the lesser publications, or whatever, but they were really down on it, just kind of saying, you know, it's like another action platform, it's like another RPG, and just sort of suggesting that it was the narrative seemed to be a little bit like been there, done that, and I think, I don't know, maybe if I played more of that genre or kind of imported games and stuff and seen what they said, maybe I'd think that. But I thought this feels quite fresh. You know, it feels like
I mean,
they've really nailed those mechanics. It feels really like unique. I liked it.
For me, it filled in a really good gap, I felt like between like the regular old school kind of platformers, of which there was millions on the Mega Drive, and the like, you know, expansive like proper RPGs, like, you know, like the Fantasy Star games and all that sort of stuff. I mean, which are like, you know, very far away from those kind of platforms. It's like, you know, some of those games could be over pretty quick and stuff, and like Fantasy Star and those kind of RPGs are like, you know, doing their own thing, and they're hours and hours long. And like for me, this game, Monster World 4, fitted nicely into the middle there. Of like, it's got a lot of the platforming elements and all that kind of stuff. And it's got the RPG elements, but it's not like 100 hours long or something like that. It was like it just feels in my mind to fit nicely somewhere there in the middle, and that's kind of like I was suddenly like, yeah, this is like I really like this game.
Yeah, because I think it landed really well on that. Again, back to like how involved the RPG side was. Like the story was enough that you weren't just mindlessly doing platforming. Like there was a story there, but it wasn't like super text heavy, really involved. There wasn't like a crazy complicated lore that you had to understand. You know, it was just, again, for me, it was really like the SNES Zelda. It was like just there's a bad guy, you've got to do this, go fight him. You know, enough. And it just landed in my kind of sweet spot of more action, less like story. Maybe just with one downside, which was kind of I thought, you know, obviously you do weapon upgrading, shield upgrading, and stuff. And I thought, I don't know, I feel like they didn't make quite enough of that. Like I kind of felt like maybe it was just the difficulty, because like, you know, I clocked there was ice shields and fire shields and stuff and all that, and I kind of figured, I'm guessing there's like an elemental bit to this, but I just never really found it that the enemies were like hard enough for that to matter.
Yeah.
Like, not until that last kind of couple of hours where you were getting a bit hammered and stuff. But
yeah, I don't think the elemental elements made enough of a difference. But then at the same time, one of my actual like gripes about the game is that you don't like keep the different things you buy in your inventory, so you can't like swap them in and out and stuff and do other stuff. It's like the one you buy is the one that you have, and you like the one that you had previously is like gone. And that was like, you know, I didn't like that part of it because I thought they could have like done a lot more with that.
I can't see why they wouldn't have been able to work that in. It just feels like they could have evolved that, like keeping it, evolved it. Even within the levels, you could have had a bit of playing around with the elemental side of it, because it's not, you know, it's not a hard thing to do. And I guess, like, you know, I don't want games to hold me by the hand, but I didn't really get that they were trying to do that. Do you know what I mean? It just was like, oh, there's other shields, I'll get them, and you know, I felt they could build up. I didn't know it's like you can go back and re-buy the other ones for like 100. What?
Yeah, if that dude doesn't disappear.
That disappearing dude. He's screwed our asses.
Dude. Yeah. You want to explain that bit after the 4th dungeon?
Well, so obviously you do get into the habit of like you finish a level, you finish a dungeon, and you go off to this dude on the side of the map, and you like upgrade your stuff from him. And obviously you can do a bit of shopping in the town and upgrade your stuff as well. And then right after you finish the 4th dungeon, so you know you're getting to the end of the game, and you go visit the dude. No, it's before the end of the 4th dungeon where he's there, isn't it? It's after the 4th dungeon he disappears. Anyway, like towards the end of the game, you go and visit the dude. He's like, suddenly his shield prices have gone through the roof. Obviously, like there's an in-game Liz Truss or whatever, and she's crashed the economy because his prices jumped from like 10,000 coins to like 25,000 coins. And obviously you're thinking, this guy's got some hot shit stuff. So I think we both did the same thing. I was like, oh, I better go off and do like, because it was so obviously more expensive. You knew you had to go and up. The game wanted you to like go and do something. So I was like, oh, okay, like I'll go and do like the next level or whatever to like earn the coins. I'll come back and get it ready for the final boss. And then he disappears, and it's like,
yeah, exactly what I did.
Like, and just it's so frustrating because although like I say, it wasn't a massive part of the game. Like they didn't do enough of it. I still felt like I wanted to collect all the stuff. I was like, I felt bereft. I'd never managed to complete all the stuff, and it's like,
yeah, dude. I was robbed of my heart.
Yeah, and I think you found that final boss relatively easy, but he nailed me for it. Like for a good couple of hours, like I was like getting slaughtered by him, and I thought, I was obviously meant to get the whatever, you know, the equivalent of the Master Sword and Master, you know, highly insured over. And I didn't have it. I mean, in the end, you didn't need it, but yeah. So that was a shame. And I think it's kind of a piece with they just didn't really make that enough of a part of the game, because like the fact that you didn't quite know whether you needed it or not need it, and you know, and the fact that he's gone at the end. And you didn't actually have to get it. It felt like, you know, in SNES Zelda, where you have to get the Master Sword, and it's like part of the key like plot. I just do that because it makes it more satisfying than to do the leveling up. You know what made it worse is that after that dude disappears, I don't know whether I knew it by then, but basically after he disappears, it does then start piling you on with money, like it's kind of.
Yeah,
opening chests, and it's like giving you like 20,000 gil. I think you talk to that like old hag who like buys your gold bars off you, and she's suddenly like giving you like 20 grand or whatever, and you're like, oh yeah, I got all the money. And he's gone. So
I know that was I don't know. That really just did my head in. Like the fact that was gone. It was just like, I don't know. I mean, it's like like for the end boss. Like I mean. It was easy in terms of that I got through it, only because I had loads of those blue hearts at the bottom. It was just like, I mean, he would have killed me if I had got all those, because my red hearts kind of weren't like anywhere near the top, because that was the thing that I was trying to find. The dude took away when he disappeared. Yeah, no. So I just beat the end boss just by like like sucking it up, like that's kind of like using all my medicines and like put those plant things and all stuff like that. And I think I got to the end and it just had, I think I had like 3 little hearts left or something, so it was pretty close. But
I did feel
just like he battered me.
I did feel like a massive noob though when because I was like, I think I was like just a couple of hours ahead of you, and I was like texting you going, just like final boss, he keeps like hammering me, like, and it was a good couple of hours where I was like kind of repeatedly going back and like playing him again and stuff, and like I think you sent me what would be a sort of vaguely sympathetic text, like, oh, I have to see, and then you got actually I got the text you going, oh, I beat him, and it's like, oh right.
Yeah, no, it was
So
not.
it's
It was
obviously like more of a complete pleb.
No, it was like, that's the thing with text message. The tone wasn't there. It was more like, oh, I beat him. You know what I'm saying? It was like I was really surprised. Like I was just thinking like there's going to be like 3 different like you know when they're like the first part of the boss is like it's there, and then like you beat it and you think, oh, is that the end? And then there's like 2 other versions of it that then follow. And like when the credits came up, that was when it was like, oh, okay, sort of thing. You know, I was like really actually surprised.
I did get though something which I haven't got from like any game really for a long time though, and that is the sense of satisfaction from when you do finally beat a boss that's really hard, and you do sort of crack him. And I have to say, like, you know, I think we'll do 2 things together, because I think one is the bosses and some of the other character difficulty and stuff, but the other's got to be like the cheaty hitbox stuff. But I'll do the bosses and you can do the hitbox, because I guess like obviously keeping my in-head comparison, I kept going back to the kind of the dungeon bosses and end level bosses in SNES Zelda, and I was thinking, I think Monster World had the edge. I think they were hard, but there were a couple of them where I genuinely for like 10, 20, 30 minutes was thinking, there's no gap in this guy's pattern. You know, I just cannot land a hit on this guy without like taking loads of hits. But they're just
You think of that angel guy?
Yeah, the angel guy, the guy with the spinning chain thing.
Guy.
I hated that guy.
Oh yeah, that was super annoying.
What's that episode where they go, I hate that guy? It's a Friends episode.
That's Friends, yeah.
Yeah. You think
Who
of
is
that?
it? I can't remember.
Yeah,
hate that guy.
Oh, it's the psychologist. It's when like psychiatrists, when Phoebe's dating a psychiatrist, and gradually everyone like hates him, and then right at the end, Phoebe's like, I hate that guy. Anyway, but the guy with the spinning chain thing, he was my Phoebe's boyfriend, because like, it was such a cheaty move. It was like, you know, he just, every time you think you've got in, he'd spin the chain up faster and stuff. But every time you do crack it, and then it is just very satisfying, because you can feel like a real pro, like dodging it, like timing it perfectly and stuff, and they were never so easy that once it was worked out, it was just a cakewalk. It was like you still had to like time it right and do it well. And I call it the Cuphead lesson, because I think back in the days of this game, I would have given up on this, and I don't think I really got the satisfaction of super hard. I wouldn't call it super hard, I'm just pretty shit at games. But you know, I don't think I got the satisfaction of the perseverance and like sticking with it to beat it. And I remember watching some guy play Cuphead on stream, which of course is pretty nightmarish in places. You know, it's deliberately hard, and it is like there is one single pattern through the level or through the boss or whatever. But I watched him play it and saw like him go again and again and again and get the satisfaction. And now I'm much sort of better at playing games like that. And I think I wouldn't have appreciated Monster World without that. But those bosses, I thought they were excellent and massive. That squid guy you're talking about, you know, the one that reminds you of Shantae. It's like, he's a big old sprite, and he's obviously chucking his little dudes on the screen at the same time. It's a sort of blast brothers and shit right there.
Yeah, no, I did think it was very technically accomplished, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you know, the use of colour, like I think we said, like, it's quite, you know, SNES-like, isn't it? Like, it's quite a SNES-looking game. It's like, obviously, that machine had like 2 years of extra development over the Mega Drive. So it kind of didn't have that usual Mega Drive kind of grittiness sort of, like, and
No.
it was it was a nice looking game, and it's like, you know, a few of the tricks, like did you notice the title crawl that's like Star Wars?
Yeah.
With the opening, it's like it looks like it's doing some kind of scaling trickery or something like that. And when that came on, I was like, oh, because I remember on Super Star Wars on the SNES, it was like, oh, Mode 7 doing the title crawl sort of thing, and then it was like this game was doing it, and it's like, you know, it didn't look like necessarily animated. It looked like the Mega Drive was like doing some kind of trickery to do it.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I kind of felt like they had some programming skills going with this game.
And, you know, they would have done. I mean, a bit later in the Mega Drive's life, obviously, by that point, you did see programmers start to do stuff. You know, you think of the obvious thing for me when you think big bosses and like complicated animations is Gunstar Heroes, and you think what they did with their bosses, and like the massive limbs flying about and loads on screen and stuff, and you think, yeah, they found tricks. And this game, you know, it's simple by comparison, but it did have a few. But yeah, but it's not all good, because you struggled a bit with like some of the cheatiness of some of the characters. And, you know, I remember you were saying to me like they were hacking you off, grinding your gears.
They were. Yeah, no, I just kind of like felt like, you know, at times when it was being quite stingy with hearts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, when you end up taking like a few cheap hits, it's kind of like a bit like, oh, that. You know what I mean? It's a real grid grind.
A grid grind.
Yeah.
I think my only real downside was probably that last level. I just thought, you know, like it was really original, like through the game, you know, mix up the types of levels. It like even like I think it was the fourth dungeon. No, it's, I don't know, penultimate or fourth dungeon, where it's got lots of the platforms and like the moving, you know, the sort of conveyor belts. That's it. And like, man, I'm getting old. I can't even remember what I got that conveyor belt. And by the way, that's that level, and obviously there's one earlier where you're kind of in the sewers or like stuff. It's quite like little comparisons to Sonic, actually, weren't there? Did you pick that? It's like just
Sonic, in which way?
Just as in like the running on the conveyor belts and trying to do those dirt sort of platforms.
Oh yeah.
You know, that's reminding me of Sonic. The bit where you kind of
that.
in that sewer level and you jump in the pipes, it's a bit like Chemical Plant Zone, and it's like, you know, going around the zone like that. And even then, like obviously the magic carpet ride like Shantae, but it's also very like that Tails level, you know, where you're on the biplane and you're kind of flying around.
Oh yeah. Is it Sky Chase Zone?
Sky Chase, yeah. Probably not deliberate stuff, but anyway. Yeah, but the levels anyway, really varied, really good. And then just at the end, where kind of maybe I was flagging a bit, obviously we played it quite into like an intense session, but just flagging a bit, and then that last level is just repetitive. You know, it feels like filler because they just throw the same enemies at you. It's like level after level of just like, you know, it's
not really. It didn't have any level design. It was just endless enemies. It was like just running the gauntlet against like every enemy.
Yeah.
It was kind of a bit like, you know, you just kind of almost looking for that, like, you know, pipe or whatever, just to break it up a bit, just to do something.
And that was it. I just thought maybe they slightly let themselves down with that, because it's like, again, like if they played up the RPG bit a bit more, maybe I would have cared more about that. Because you see, they did do one thing, you know, as you were going through that level, they did level you up a bit. You know, they gave you some more of those blue token dealies that gave you the hearts, the bottom row of hearts and stuff, and you know, they weirdly gave you a load more money as well, which just, you knew by that point you couldn't spend on anything, so it's like,
I didn't get that.
I think if you were invested in your characters, like in a sort of full-blown RPG, and you were feeling the leveling up, it would have been more worthwhile, but it just felt like a grind and a bit unnecessary. So I think you could just skip straight to the last boss.
Yeah, I put that element to it on my dislike list. Yeah, it was just too long, too many enemies. It's like, you know, it was just like, it wasn't the hardness, it was just the monotony, really, I suppose.
Yeah. I was just I think even to the point, that particular enemy you had the gripe with, you know, the little squid guy that shoots out his arm twice, and you that was the one that was like grinding your grid, wasn't it? 'Cause there was, And they,
Yeah, it's when his tentacle passes through like a step and manages to, and the hitbox like isn't seeing like the landscape or something. It's like connecting, but you can't like see it because it's like behind the scenery. And that was like, oh, that one.
oh, you devil!
Yeah.
I do like the way you sort of become like a really prim middle class Englishman when you get angry at a game.
Absolute swine.
You cad! You bounder!
Yeah.
Which is obviously just an ironic contrast how you are in the real game, where like you'd be smashing up the machine or setting it on fire or whatever. It's like
That was back in the day. Now I just call them a rapscallion and move on. My favourite of all of those like Middle England 18th century insults is a blackguard, because it's anyway. I'm not going to go into this. Blackguard, it's a very good one. Okay.
So I'm going to kill that detail there because I'm going to kind of forget what I was talking about. No, it's already gone. No, it's gone completely. Well, anyway, let's go to music. Like I know we touched on it, but like I did think it was fantastic. Like a little bit of repetition, like in the early levels, but just when I felt like it was beginning to sag, there's I forget which level. I think it must be the third dungeon. Yeah, it is. It's that really long sort of third dungeon with like 3 parts. Yeah,
pyramid thing.
It's got a properly classic tune. Like it's one, you know, like some of the Zeldas, like some of the like classic games of the 60-bit era. It's got music that is genuinely good enough to stay with me. Where I'm not quite the same as you, that I'd sit there listening to the title screen playing. Although I did do that with Final Fantasy VII Remake actually, because it was just so beautiful. But that third level, that third dungeon, yeah, did it for me.
Yeah, that's when I kind of felt like they kind of knew that they kind of like played off that theme tune a little bit, like, and it was time to mix it up. And like for me, that kind of worked. You know, it got to that point, and they started doing something different at the right moment.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it was good. Like I did really like that. Those tunes.
I think right moment is. I didn't really notice this consciously while I was playing it, but right moment is the thing, because it's kind of like that early part of the adventure is quite controlled. You know, you're in a sort of the world is quite a steady place for Asher, the main character, and so the music is quite, you know, that same motif repeating stuff. But then third dungeon, things start going to shit, don't they? You know, the queen gets possessed, or queen princess, she gets possessed, and like the wizards are taking over, and the music changes. And then of course, like when you're back in the town, in the city, it's changed into that sort of evil version of the music and stuff. So it's quite clever actually. It's almost like the stability of the story is reflecting the music. It's possibly a bit too much credit. I'm not sure they really. Sorry, the speech of it. I'm not sure they really did it on purpose. I feel like it was maybe just the guy was just being a bit lazy, but you know, it worked. It worked.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I loved it. I thought the music was great. I was really surprised when I saw people not feeling it. It was like I was like, no way. Because it's like I felt like it was well done on the Mega Drive as well. It didn't have that kind of like early Mega Drive sound. It was like, you know, you could tell that they kind of honed what they were doing, the way they were doing it at that point. And it was like, yeah, I don't know, it was just really strong.
Yeah, that's really true. A lot of the early Mega Drive music, you really felt like they weren't adjusting the music to what the machine could do. You know, they were trying to make sounds that it wasn't really that great at making, and so sometimes it felt a bit stretched and reedy and stuff. But yeah, this worked. And actually, same with the graphics, because you know, when you think of the towns and level design in the game, they feel vibrant, right? They feel colourful. But when you actually, because we were talking about this when we were playing, but when you actually look at them, the colour palette is quite limited. You know, it's still...
Yeah, they just picked well, I think.
They just picked well. And, there's a lot of intricate little, background details, like cracks on the walls, and, the stonework is really well, coloured in and stuff. And it's clever little moves where they haven't necessarily got the colour palette to play with, but they adjust it well. And they haven't really got, the sound palette to play with, but they just play to its strengths. And,
yeah. No, I thought it was really good overall in both those areas.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we played it. I think it's like
Oh,
absolutely
totally.
storming like first recommendation. Definitely my preference doing these is going to be trying to find ones I've either not played or not given enough time to, and this was absolutely like nailed it. I thought. So credit to you. I think this was one of your shouts, isn't it? So.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's been like I said, it's been one that I've been meaning to get around to for a long time. So I was really glad to get stuck into it. It was a good time. I really liked it.
I think it's pretty top end for me as well. I've got to be honest. I was really impressed, and I do just think back to when I had my Mega Drive the first time around. You know, before I kind of rebought it and started like picking up titles again. There were quite a lot of Mega Drive titles where I thought this feels like this feels limited. I really remember. Sorry, this is a tangent, but I really remember playing Road Rash 2 and thinking it's a good game, but it really feels like there are limitations on this machine and like it can't quite go any further. Whereas other games like Gunstar Heroes, Streets of Rage 2, Sonic 2, it felt like this is the game the developers wanted to make. There were no limitations that the machine stopped them from doing what they wanted to do. This was the game they wanted to make. And for me, that's always been the thing with Mega Drive. It's like kind of, there are games that felt like they just weren't exciting because they felt like they were just a bit sort of ploddy, drudgy, like a bit limited. And then there are games that were just classics because they were just, and this feels a lot more towards those. You know, it just felt like...
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
It wasn't perfect, but it just didn't feel like it was limited. It felt like someone had set out with an idea and they'd landed it, and I loved that. So, don't know how I've ended up comparing it to Road Rash 2. That is not.
That's quite a tangent.
It's not an obvious comparison, but you know, like you get to hurt people. I don't know. Let's just leave that there. Anyway, it was good. I'm very glad we did it, and it sets us up very nicely. But I think we're going to take a bit of a tangent for our next one. So, do you want to do the big reveal for the second, the third, I suppose it would be. But anyway, the next book club. Where are we going next?
Okie dokie. Well, it's the Sonic Team classic in my eyes, but I won't give away too much now of my opinion. But it's going to be Burning Rangers on the Sega Saturn.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one because that's like, you know, it was one of the very late Saturn games. Goes for an absolute bomb now. Like all the copies, like particularly PAL. So I was glad to get mine back in the day because I wouldn't be buying it these days. That's for sure. So it goes for like over 100.
It is one I'm massively excited about because, you know, I faded towards the end of the Saturn's life because I wasn't importing, like you and Nartons were importing, and so you did have that extra year and a half of interest in it. So you were kind of still going when Burning Rangers came out. I don't know when I bought my last game on the Saturn, but I had that kind of, you know, I really hit the lull in the sort of latter part of '97 or whatever, and just didn't have any light. So I missed this. You know, I knew about it, I knew you liked it, but I never played it. And so for me, this is a big one because it's a real bit of like my favourite machine's history, which I just haven't explored. So yeah, big time exciting. And of course, like for anyone else that's like picking up on the book club, play along, you know, because this is, I think, probably Burning Rangers specifically, but a lot of these games are going to be in a similar place for people. Either, you know, they played them 20, 30 years ago and haven't played them since, or like they haven't played them like me for this one and stuff. So it's definitely good if we get people's thoughts for it, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it'd be good to know other people's, like, you know, their feelings towards it. Like, you know, tell us we're talking complete nonsense and we've missed the point or whatever and stuff like that. Like with this game, leave a little comment if you played it. It would be good to hear other people's thoughts. Yeah.
I make one prediction though, that anyone else who's joined in on this will make me feel like I'm an absolute trash gamer though. You know, just a little bit like I'm really struggling to defeat this end boss. I've been playing for ages. Oh, I just did it. Oh yeah, whatever, you freaking schmo.
Well, we can blame that on our age now. We're not young whippersnappers anymore.
Right. Well, on that note, let's end. Say, but we really need a signing off thing, don't we?
Well. I was gonna say, Well, this has been great.